Wonderful. So it's 10:30. I'd like to say good morning to everybody on the call. Thank you for everyone taking the time to join us this morning for the Economic Recovery Readiness Update. My name is Erin Richmond and I'm with the City of North Bay's Economic Development Department, and I'll be moderating this morning's call. Today's format will include a brief update from each speaker, followed by a question and answer period based on the submissions received by call participants. Thank you to all those who took time to send in questions. We had a very strong response, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible during our time together this morning. This call is being recorded and will be posted on the City of North Bay's COVID-19 media room and business information pages. And you can access those pages by visiting cityofnorthbay.ca. Notes from today's update will be circulated using the email addresses provided by participants when registering for today's call. The purpose of today's update is for our elected officials to provide North Bay's business community with information about how their respective levels of government are working to address business needs during these unprecedented times. Although locally they require no formal introductions, each of our speakers has a business background that has helped shape our community. Joining us this morning is the Honorable Anthony Rota, Member of Parliament for Nipissing-Temiskaming and Speaker of the House. The Honorable Vic Fedeli, Member of Provincial Parliament for Nipissing and Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and His Worship, Mayor Al MacDonald for the City of North Bay. Thank you to our speakers for participating on the call today and working through the technology challenges with us and getting ready. We recognize the incredible demands currently being placed on your time. So with that, we'll get right to it, and I'll turn it over to Mayor MacDonald for opening remarks.
Great, thanks very much, Erin, and welcome everyone, and thank you for taking some time to be with us this morning. What we've concentrated on as a City of North Bay and municipal perspective, we had three priorities that we started with. One was the health and safety of our citizens. So we took every step possible. We're taking our direction from the hospital, our health unit, putting every practice and recommendation in place to make sure that our citizens are safe, including restricting access to City Hall, our wastewater plant, our water treatment plant, our public works department. One, to keep all the essential workers safe, that they can continue to provide the services to our citizens. Secondly, I have an incredible council and staff that truly believe in our community and want to grow our city, and they recognize that our citizens and our businesses are struggling through these times. And what we did was we called an emergency meeting. We were in the first cities in Ontario to waive penalties and interest on water and sewer bills, on our tax bills. We waived the fair transit of our transit to get people around. And our third priority is what we're here for today, our economic recovery readiness. We want to make sure that we come out strong. We are aligned with the province and the federal government. We're all working very well together. And I will say that our engineering, planning, building and economic departments are fully staffed. They're all working, and there is no delays from our perspective.
Okay, thank you, Mayor MacDonald. Minister Fedeli, can you please outline the efforts underway at the provincial level?
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's time here today. We have a dramatic economic impact, but a huge human impact as well. And the safety and well-being of everybody is our absolute top concern. I put this in sort of three areas. Let's look at today on a human and a family level. What we really need to make sure is that everybody has food on their table and a roof over their head. And so that's the first package. And we've done a tremendous amount of listening to families and stakeholders to see what it is they need for that first package. That's why there's, if you have a child under 12, there's $200 check coming for each student that you have, each child you have under 12 to help because the schools are closed. If you're a senior, a low-income senior, your gains, your guaranteed annual income supplement, that will automatically double. You don't have to apply. If you're a student, your OSAP interest and principal are suspended. The list will go on, but it's to help families with some immediate funds so they can make sure there's food and a roof. The second package is really about this week, this month, and perhaps the next couple of months. I don't know how many months. And that's where we'll talk in specifics. I'm sure there'll be questions about what it is specifically you're doing, but this is the deferral of taxes and the deferral of WSIB and the deferral of payments. And that's also where we added money like domestic violence money, mental health, $12 million yesterday on mental health to help our communities. And the third will be more the area that I am looking forward, looking to the future on, is how are we going to recover? And that's the third area. And so with Mayor Al and with Anthony, I would say that the three levels of government really are working well. I'm looking forward to talking to you about the recovery. There are better days ahead.
Thank you, Minister Fedeli. MP Rhoda, can you please provide a summary of the efforts being undertaken at the federal level?
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank Mayor and Council Al MacDonald for this, and thank you, Vic, for taking part in this as well, and opening it up to everyone so that they can see what's going on, and inviting people from the north end of the riding as well, up in Timiskaming Shores, who we have quite a few from up there as well. So, and this really does set a good tone where we're all in this together, working to get out of it. Right now, what we've seen in the past few months is unheard of in our times, and what we're looking at is, as was mentioned earlier, the personal toll and economic toll is something that we're all feeling throughout the country, and in these extraordinary times, no Canadian should have to worry about paying their bills, rent, or putting food on the table. And, you know, as a first phase of Canada's COVID-19 economic response plan, it's important that we provide immediate help to those Canadians and businesses that need it most. And there's a number of different plans that are going on right now, whether it's income replacement or help for families through the Canada Family Benefit Plan, increasing that, making sure that there is income there for people as we go, and sharing wages, making sure that we are getting ahead. Now, it's a wide range of support, and there is a lot out there to help ensure that Canadians can pay for that rent and the groceries, and help businesses continue to pay their employees and their bills. And that's something we'll be covering, so that businesses can recover from these uncertain times and these hard times. There are times that are unprecedented, as I mentioned earlier, and ever changing, and that's why we have to continue to keep the dialogue going and talk amongst ourselves, both amongst governments and amongst citizens. And it's important that Canadians help each other so that we can help our fellow Canadians get through this, and that when we do get through this, we get through this together. Again, there's different areas that we're going to cover a little bit later on through the questions, but this is one of the largest economic programs in Canadian history that is coming forward, whether it's supporting for business and Canadians or subsidizing wages. It's something that really is making a difference, and will be making a difference in Canadians' lives. There's three main areas that we want to achieve success in. One of them is avoiding layoffs through wage subsidies and work sharing, which we'll elaborate a little bit later on. Access to loans and credit, making sure that businesses have that cash flow that they can keep going on. And there's a program that we'll outline as well. And the other thing too is providing flexibility, as was mentioned by Minister Fedeli earlier, flexibility around income taxes and tax deadlines. And what we're looking at is deferral of those payments and remittance later at the federal level, so that businesses can have that little bit of relief when they really need it. And that's right now when business is suffering. Again, I want to commend all Canadians in all different levels of government who've come together, regardless of political stripe. This is something that has brought the country together. I'm very proud of. Whether it's the federal, provincial, municipal, or Indigenous governments, they are all coming together to make a difference in Canadians' life. And I really hope that this session will be informative and will be just the start of making this conversation continue.
Okay, thank you, MP Rhoda. Now into some questions. The federal government has recently provided information about the changes to the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program, increasing contributions from the original 10% to 75% for eligible companies. MP Rhoda, can you please provide some clarification regarding eligibility requirements, process, and timeframes for businesses hoping to access this wage subsidy program?
Yeah, the Canada Wage Subsidy. What it is it's the this is intended to help businesses keep and bring back workers to the payroll. And one of the key things here is what we don't want is after this is over and we're trying to get back on our feet again, that we can't find the workers and they've left the company or they've gone somewhere else. Now, what it does is it provides up to 75% wage subsidy to qualify employers for up to 3 months. So it's helping them keep their employees and paying their 75% of the wages. Now, the claims will be retroactive to March 15th. So you'll be able to backdate that to that time. It'll be applicable to $58,700 of an up to the $58,700 of an employee's salary, and this translates into $847 a week. The 12-week period will span from March 15 to June 6th, and eligible remuneration may include salary, wages, and other remuneration. What it doesn't cover is severance pay, because the whole idea is keeping the employees at the place of employment. And it doesn't include stock option benefits or personal use of corporate vehicles. So what you see is it is really trying to keep Canadians supplying food and shelter for their families. Now, there's no overall limit to the subsidy amount that an eligible employer may claim. So if you have multiple employers, this could really help out keeping your workforce in place. Now, businesses should do everything in their power to cover that extra 25% if they can. I mean, we're asking this to so that we have as little disruption as possible. Now, who qualifies is a question that often comes up. You know, businesses, large and small, charities and not-for-profits all qualify. Eligible employers will include taxable corporations and partnerships. The public sector does not qualify. So if you're one of the crown corporations or municipality, that falls under a different category. One of the qualifiers for this is that your business must have experienced at least a 30% decline in revenues because of COVID-19 pandemic in March, April, or May when compared to the same time last year. For eligible employers who've established their business after February 2019, we'll work with them to determine what's going on to compare monthly revenues and look at reasonable benchmarks to make sure that everyone is covered. So if you've got a new business, work with the CRA on this one to help you get it through. The nonprofit organizations and registered charities have a similar effect, where we'll be taking a look at their revenue, because in these times, sometimes revenues do decrease. And it's the circumstances that are prevailing. So we'll take a look at it, and we want to be as reasonable as possible to make sure that everything goes well. An eligible employer is eligible to this wage subsidy and will be based entirely on the salary or wages that are actually paid by their employees. So what we don't want to see is somebody giving a bonus or a raise at the last minute. It's based on what the person is earning. Now, when we look at the application through, how do you go through it or go to it? It will be through CRA, and it's an online portal called My Business Account, as well as web-based applications, and that will be opening soon. It's not there yet. It's in the works, and there's modifications being made on a daily basis in light of what's going on and the feedback that is coming back to the Minister of Finance. I know I've submitted a number of things that are taking place in the city, and it's nice to see them come up at that level. Employers would have to, they will have to keep records demonstrating their reduction in revenue on a monthly basis and what they're paying their employees. So they will be subject to audit. So just keep good records on all this, and everything should work out well. Now, again, like I said, you have to demonstrate on a monthly basis that you still qualify, and if you're keeping good records, that shouldn't be a problem. like I said earlier as well, more details regarding on how to apply on this program will follow shortly, and hopefully it will help keep many Canadians employed and have the least amount of disruption as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just a point of clarification, for businesses that have been required to shut down because they don't provide essential services or products, once up and running again, will there be wage subsidy available to help them bring their staff back to work?
Well, that's something that is being worked on right now. I don't have any details on that, but it is very important. The whole idea is to make sure that employees can come back to work. Now, for ones that are deemed unessential, they can actually qualify for this and see if they can keep their employees going. So they're getting 75% of the salary, and the type of work might change. But again, that's open to negotiation and working with individuals, with CRA, to make sure it all comes out in the end.
Okay, thank you, MP Rhoda. The provincial government has announced a new $50 million Ontario Together Fund to help support the development of essential equipment and supplies. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to listen on a call where, Mr. Fedeli, you were addressing a national audience of innovators, and you used a North Bay example to help encourage industry to engage in the COVID-19 response. Can you please outline how the fund will be deployed, and specifically how businesses that can provide essential equipment and supplies or have innovative ideas will be able to access the support required to scale up?
Thank you very much, Erin. So 2 weeks ago, I drove to Toronto and stood with the Premier and announced Ontario Together. And that was our call to arms, if you will, where we were asking manufacturers right across Ontario, primarily, mind you, the auto parts manufacturers, to come together and retool their companies to be able to make personal protection equipment, PPE. We were asking them for plans to convert their line to ventilators, masks, respiratory masks as well, the popular N95 that you hear about, which is basically a brand name, gowns, and other types of PPE. And so we started with the ontario.ca/Ontario Together. You go on that site, and it's pretty binary. Can you convert to masks, yes or no? And then it directs you. So that was the first phase, and we had, in the first weekend, more than 2,000 Ontario companies talk to us about their opportunity. And since then, we've now seen some of the big three auto parts manufacturers, Linamar, Magna, and Martin Rea, come together to make 10,000 ventilators with a company called O2. So that order has been placed, and those ventilators are on a production line as we speak. We've also seen another one of the large parts manufacturers, Woodbridge, be converting their line to masks. And so these are large orders that the province of Ontario have placed, tens of millions of dollars in orders. That led us to develop what you're referring to as the Ontario Together Fund. So you go on the same website, ontario.ca/Ontario Together, and to the bottom, you'll see a paragraph that talks about the fund. Now, this fund is all across Ontario. So it's administered through my ministry, where we were administering something like the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund. It was called the Southwestern Fund and the Southeastern Fund, which I administer out of my Toronto office. So that group of experts will be the group that will triage the submissions that we get. But it is for all of Ontario. And so we encourage you, if you have an idea, go on Ontario Together on the website, and you'll get the spirit of what we're trying to do. We want you to be able to convert. We've got $50 million. It's not an application form. It's an application recommendation, a letter, a submission that you make. Tell us what your idea is. Tell us what you need. Sometimes you just need a purchase order to be able to say, yes, I can make X masks. They're certified. They'll meet the qualifications. I just need a purchase order. Sometimes you need money. You need money to retool. You need money to buy equipment, if that's what you want to do. Here in town, I'm just so proud of some of our local companies that we've seen jumping in. New Ontario Brewing Company making hand sanitizer, that it just warms your heart to see that. In Powassan, Julie Gom. She makes the Bug shirt, a very popular Northern Ontario tool for the summer. She's converted to, in addition to making the Bug shirts, she's converted to adding face masks to her list. I mean, this is the Ontario spirit. So if you've got a big idea and you may need money for retooling or new equipment, go to that website and we'll guide you through it.
Okay, and thank you. I would imagine that response times are going to be dependent on how many companies are signing up on that website, but do you have any information with respect to what you anticipate the process and the timelines to be for companies that are signing up?
Well, we have a team standing by. The great thing about this is we already had a system in place. Our full team of people in my ministry with the regional development funds, as they were called. So we just plug this, and this is new money. This is additional money. So we expect to very quickly support any viable idea. They're reviewing them daily, hourly, 24/7. We're reviewing these ideas. So you'll hear back from us very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Minister Fedeli. A significant number of the inquiries that we've been fielding here at the city through the business hotline have been related to municipal payments. And as mentioned previously, City of North Bay was one of the first in Northern Ontario to take action by introducing no interest or penalties for late municipal property taxes and water bill payments. Mayor McDonald, given this relief was established for a 30-day period and we're now into April, what considerations will City Council be putting in place for struggling businesses moving forward?
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And I just want to start and say Anthony's government and Vic's government have been tremendous in assisting citizens and local businesses, which has made it a little bit easier for municipalities to continue to operate and provide the services. And they do deserve recognition for all the programs they're putting in place. And I'm hearing from our business leaders that are appreciating all three levels of government doing what they can to assist citizens and business through this. And I've heard from many business leaders and citizens. So council, and I said this in my opening remarks, they're a tremendous council. It's unbelievable how engaged they are. They understand the issues and they want to assist our citizens and businesses, and they're there for us. And our staff are aligned with council, and it's an incredible team that's working on behalf of the citizens of North Bay. As you pointed out, Aaron, we're one of the first municipalities to waive penalties and fees on not only property taxes, but water and sewer. And the province has deferred the school board taxes as well, which assists us greatly. The motion that council had passed was to give authorization and direction to staff to make those penalties and interest waivable. In other words, they have discretion to continue it on. I spoke with our CEO yesterday afternoon because the 30 days is coming up pretty quickly, and he's agreed to extend them again another 30 days, and it'll keep going until we know what the situation is or how long it's going to take us to get out. What deferral, or sorry, what waiving of interest and penalties mean is really just a referral of paying taxes. Now, we're encouraging everyone that can pay to pay, because obviously we need the revenue to continue to provide the services that we're providing today, because the roads still have to be maintained. The water and sewer plants still needs to go. We're doing everything we can. But if you are struggling, by all means, reach out to us. We'll provide assistance. Those lines are open. We have all our financial staff working on it. It's a confidential call. No one will know who you are. In fact, members of council and all our staff will never know which individual called or didn't call. So just know that. We've also waived all the fees in transit, because we recognize people need to get to their work. If they're essential workers, they need to get to the grocery store or they need to get to the hospital. So we've waived the transit fees so everybody can get to where they need. No question, moving forward, we're looking at everything that we can to assist our citizens, and we're open to different ideas. We're very fortunate, though, that this council and all the previous councils have left the city in a very strong financial position, and that is something that will get us through. But at the end of the day, if it continues for a long time and people continue to not pay their water or sewer bills or their property taxes, we're going to eat through our reserves pretty quickly. So we're there for our citizens, those that can pay, we encourage, but we're doing everything we can. We're turning over every rock to find ways that we can assist our citizens and business. And we just want to know and let the citizens and businesses know we're doing everything we can from a municipal government perspective. So the first part of your question was the 30 days. It has been extended. Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mayor McDonald. MP Rhoda, a lot of information has been made available through Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan. Businesses are keen to know more about the interest-free loan, being referred to as the Business Credit Availability Program. Can you please elaborate?
Sure, that's one that I think is going to be very important, because businesses, your cash flow, when you're running, you want your cash flow to continue. And sometimes the only way you can do that is by getting a loan. Basically, what's happened is $25 billion has been made available to eligible financial institutions so that they can provide interest-free loans to small businesses. Now, government guaranteed loans are in the area up to $40,000 to small businesses and not-for-profits. So that opens the door to quite a few organizations who can use the money and continue to operate. Now, the nice thing about it is for the first year, it's interest-free. So there's no cost for that first year. And the other one is if you can manage to pay it off by December 21st, 2022, $10,000 of that amount will be completely forgivable. So you can see where it really does help, not only now when companies need it the most, but down the road when they're getting back up on their feet and running in full steam, they'll have an extra $10,000 that they don't have to pay back. They can put back into a business and continue to grow. Because one of the concerns is when we get out of this, it's like anything else. Once you get over something, then it's a matter of building again. And this allows the individual companies and organizations to put the growth back in and keep it there so that they can continue to employ Canadians and let the economy grow. Now, who qualifies is one of the main questions. Businesses will need to demonstrate that they have a total payroll between $50,000 and $1 million. So you're looking at small to medium-sized companies who really need that cash flow. How do you apply? On this one right here, it's being run by financial institutions. So I encourage all businesses to go to the current the financial institution that they're currently dealing with and see how they can work that out. They're basically going to a bank or a trust company or any of the financial institutions in town and saying, look, the government is going to back my loan up to $40,000. Let's get this done. So I'm sure the banks are very eager to do this, and it will help small businesses get through this. Some of the other things that have come up are loan guarantees for SMEs or small and medium enterprises. And this program is administered through the Export Development Canada, or I'll refer to them as EDC. It's a lot shorter. The EDC is working with financial institutions to issue new operating credit and cash flow term loans. So if you're having trouble with cash flow and you're going to need that little bit of extra cash, you can work with your financial institution again and see if you can get it. It's going to be shared by EDC and the financial institutions. One of the other areas, or one of the other programs that's coming up is the co-lending. And again, it's administered by the Business Development Bank of Canada, and it's working with financial institutions to co-lend term loans to SMEs. These are operational cash flow. So if you're in a crunch and let's say you get a large order and you really can't put the money out to buy the raw material, this is where it comes in handy. And it's eligible businesses can get, or they can get amounts that are incremental. They don't have to worry about getting it all at once and then worrying about interest payments. So if they have an order, they have a certain amount, depending on what they've worked out with their financial institution, they can keep increasing it and access more money. Once again, to apply, interested businesses should be working with their current financial institutions. And again, it's in the financial institutions because they're used to it, and they're set up for lending money and making those decisions very quickly. That is key at a time like this for business.
Okay, thank you. And just a quick follow-up question with respect to the CERB. What impact, if any, would there be on individuals accessing the Canada Emergency Response Benefit if an employer is able and willing to provide top-up?
You know what? If the employee is willing to provide the top-up and the 75%, then the CRB is not something that would qualify. The CRB is basically, it encourages people, basically it's open to workers residing in Canada who are at least 15 years old, who have stopped working because of COVID-19 and are eligible for employment insurance, regular sickness benefits, who had an income of at least $5,000 in 2019, or that's $5,000 over the last 12 months prior to their application date. And that should be fairly open and open to a lot of people. And who is expected to be, they're expected to be without employment or income over the next 14, for at least 14 consecutive days in the next 4-week period. So what you're looking at is, okay, this is the 4-week period. Am I going to be without income? And then it'll come up. The income of at least $5,000 may come from any a combination of following sources. That would be employment, self-employment, maternity or paternal benefits under the Employment Insurance Program, or similar benefits paid outside by other provinces. If you have stopped working for reasons not related to COVID, this will not apply to you. So, I mean, take a look at it. I encourage everyone to look at it and see exactly where they fit in. Now, the CRB will open, or it's planned to be open, the week of April 6th. The place to go is canada.ca coronavirus, and you'll be led into the CERB website where you can apply. And the applicants will be directed through 2 services. Canadians who generally are eligible for EI, they'll be directly moved into this program. And the Canadians who are generally not eligible for EI benefits will be directed to apply through the CRA's My Account. If you do not have internet and set up your account, and again, go to the site, you'll see something that says set up My Account. Please go there now as soon as you see this video and set up your My Account. The last thing I want to see is everybody rushing in on the 6th of April and trying to set up their account and overload the bandwidth and the system. Now, if you don't have any accessibility to the internet or would prefer to do it by voice, CRA has an automatic toll-free number at 1-800-959-2019, and you can be led through it and work it out that way. Again, we have multiple ways of doing it, but I would encourage people to go on and set up their account right now as they hear this after this program.
Great, thank you for that important clarification. Although a measure deemed necessary to help curb the spread, last week's move by the province to order the shutdown of non-essential workplaces caused some confusion among businesses. In light of Premier Ford's comments on Wednesday that the province will be adjusting the list in the coming days, Minister, what message do you have for local businesses who are unclear about whether they can remain open and how they should be proceeding in the coming weeks?
Thank you, Erin. In just a little over 2 hours, you are going to see Premier Ford on national television continuing to take a real leadership role. He is going to reveal the modeling numbers of where Ontario could be in the next month. He has told us yesterday that this will be a very sobering experience for the people of Ontario and for the people of Canada. He has told us that he believes that you, the people, should know what he knows, what we in Cabinet know, and how that is guiding the decisions that we're making. He believes, and he has said yesterday, that this is critical, that the people of Ontario understand the reality of what we are going to be seeing in the next 30 days. Part of that, after his announcement of the modeling numbers, will be issuing a new list of essential businesses. There will be no mistake in this list about the coming restrictions. We've learned so many new words in the last month and so many different methods. Here we are doing a teleconference. We've learned social distancing. We've learned flattening the curve. Those aren't just expressions. They are real and they're not being followed. And so we will take measures to flatten the curve, and we will take measures to make sure that there are opportunities for social distancing and allow you to buy the true essentials going forward. Every business, even the ones who are on the essential business list, should, to their fullest extent possible, try to do as much remotely as they can, providing alternative methods of sale. But there's nothing that will preclude a business that's not on the list from operating remotely. So we're going to see a huge change in how we do business in Ontario, developing online tools, communicating by telephone for those who don't have online services. We're going to see a change in Ontario in the very next day or so. And this change, in many instances, while it's temporary, I think people are going to see that there's a new way to do business. And I believe that we're going to see a real shift. We're going to leapfrog a whole generation of how we do business. Those who thought about it but were close to retirement and didn't really want to jump into it, I think you're going to see the opportunities here for you to do that. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Minister. A question for Mayor Macdonald. Given the current situation, will the City of North Bay be revisiting budgets, and what measures have been put in place with respect to municipal spending?
So thank you, Aaron. And, absolutely this pandemic has impacted not only our citizens and business greatly, it's also impacted the operations of the city or the corporation. And, we share the concern of what the province is going to tell us this afternoon, whatever that might be. But I can tell you, to answer the question directly, yes and yes. We'll look at operational and capital. We have closed down our arenas, so we've lost over 200,000 in revenue. We've made transit free, so you can imagine the impact or cost that will be to continue to run our transit, although we've made the adjustments to the routes to be as efficient as we can. We won't reopen the budget, but we've canceled all discretionary spending. We've closed down just about every city facility, but we've redeployed those workers in other areas. So they're out there working right now, just not in those facilities, but out in different areas in our community. Unfortunately, we did have to lay off 55 of our casual employees, and we did that about a week ago, which is really unfortunate. The other measure that we did take was We've delayed or suspended hiring the summer student program this summer. We're suspending it. Doesn't mean it's completely canceled because we don't know what the future brings us. But those 50 plus students, we're not going to hire, and we know how important that work is for them for post-secondary education. But we're taking every step we can to run the city. But it's not lost on us what that means to our workers. And we stand with them, and we're doing everything we can to keep everybody working. On the capital side, there will be absolutely significant reductions to conserve cash. We're doing everything we can to be prudent. There's always a balance. There'll be citizens that say cancel everything, but there's also those out there that depend on those contracts, those capital contracts, to get them through their construction year. So we're trying to find a balance, but there's no question that this pandemic will impact our capital projects, and we're doing everything we can. But given the prospects and what we're hearing, it sounds like it's going to be very difficult for us to carry out most of our capital programs as they exist. I will say that, and maybe I get accused of being an optimist all the time, I'm hopeful that we don't lose the whole construction season, but that's really out of our hands. But we're doing everything we can to encourage businesses that can work remotely, as Vic had mentioned, those capital projects where you don't have a concentration of workers in one spot. We can move ahead with those, but there's no question the pandemic is impacting our budget, not from just an operational perspective, but a capital perspective. And I think what's not lost on Anthony, Vic, or I, or anyone else out there is we wake up every day and it seems like the rules are changing because of the virus, and rightfully so. And it is always a struggle to keep up with all the latest information that's coming at us from all the different directions. But I will say that I have confidence in our health unit, our hospital, our city police, our firemen, EMS, and the cooperation between the other levels of government have been outstanding. And it's making it easier. But I think what we're hearing from Vic is, and the Premier, might be staggering to us as individuals, and we need to take their lead. Right now, we take direction from our health professionals, and so should we, because, as I said at the beginning, our number one priority is the safety of our citizens. So absolutely will impact our budgets. We ask everybody to be patient, but we're doing everything we can.
Okay, thank you, Mayor McDonald. We have a number of seasonal businesses in the community and those whose sales are affected by seasonal trends. For businesses that laid off workers at the end of last season and were gearing up to call workers back but now cannot, what supports are in place for workers in a situation where EI might be running out? MP Rhoda, can you provide some guidance on how folks can learn about this?
No, that's an important one in this area especially, and we really have a lot in common with the Maritimes, especially, who we kind of commiserate when it comes to seasonal workers, because we understand what it's like. It's something that larger cities and other areas don't quite get, but I know the MPs from those areas, as well as rural areas, have been lobbying hard to see something. We don't have anything as of yet that has been announced, but as was mentioned earlier by both the mayor and the minister, is that everything is shifting and changing, and at the federal level, policy is as well. Stuff that we've been asking for has been coming up. So seasonal workers, I would encourage them to continue working with EI, and some of them may even qualify for the CERB benefits, and that would be something that they would want to work at. So again, stay tuned. I don't have anything to announce or give any information on right now, but I'm sure that something will come up. One of the other groups that, excuse me, one of the other areas that we're looking at is the groups is exactly as was mentioned earlier, is the students who are losing their jobs this summer. So between the seasonal and the students, I would imagine that something is coming. And there's been a lot of talk with ministers about this. Again, things are changing. Stay tuned. And as soon as something comes out, we'll be able to announce it.
Okay, thank you, MP Rhoda. Just getting back, Minister Fedeli, with respect to some of the supports that have been announced at the provincial level, there's some information with respect to the Regional Opportunities Investment Tax Credit, and we see that Nipissing region is listed as eligible. Can you please elaborate and confirm how that'll work for companies, and will it be extended to companies who rent space to operating companies, for example?
Thank you, Erin. I can talk about that and some of the other incentives that we have provided. There's a pretty comprehensive list. The Regional Opportunities Investment Credit, that's a 10% refundable corporate income tax credit, and that's for capital investments. That tax credit is used for dollars that you're spending that are in excess of $50,000 and up to a limit of $500,000. And that's for renovating or acquiring a commercial or an industrial building. And so you're right, it's available only in rural areas of the province, including the riding of Nipissing. So we're excited about that opportunity for our companies here in Nipissing. It's in addition to the $17 billion of supports that we put in place. $7 billion is in health and job and family supports. About $3.3 billion is for health. $3.7 billion is direct support for people and to help protect their jobs. Some items on the list, the business taxes, the employee health, I know we've been asked about that, the EHT, that's about $355 million of that. So it's for 57,000 employers. It's a temporary increase to their EHT exemption. So when we make the exemption higher, they don't have to pay. There's 5 months interest and penalty relief on any provincially administered taxes. The mayor referred earlier to the provincial share of from the education taxes. So the provincial share of your local property taxes, those are waived until June 30th. WSIB payments, although we've reduced them by 47% in the last 18 months, they're now suspended for the next 6 months. I talked earlier about the $200 that's going to every family with children under 12. The seniors, their gains, guaranteed annual income system is doubled automatically. There's $148 million in social services. We just announced, I think it's about 600,000, might be less than 600,000 here in Nipissing. That was announced. There's 12 million going into mental health and addiction, 2.7 million that's going into domestic violence fund. So there are, final one is the hydro. We're going to the off-peak hours. That's going to save about $5.6 billion. I think that's in place for about 45 days. So that's roughly the package, the $17 billion package that we have put together. The Premier has said, this is only the first opening phase. There are many, many more phases ahead. This is when he said, we will spare no expense. This is why, much like Mayor Al said, our government was prepared. We've been working hard over the last year to get our finances in order. We're prepared for this. We can fund these things. It will, he has said, he will leave no expense unturned. We will spare no expense for the safety and the well-being of the people of Ontario. And what you've seen is phase 1. Phase 2, we've begun through things like the Ontario Together Fund and others. I hope that helps to answer.
It does. Thank you very much, Minister, for providing clarification. And I think there'll be a lot of folks tuning in for the Premier's update this afternoon.
they should. This is a time for your family to come together and have a full understanding of what could happen here in the province of Ontario.
Okay, so being mindful of time, I'll move on to our last question, and I'll ask each speaker to address as part of their closing remarks, if you can. So given the topic of today's call is economic recovery readiness, can you please address the types of stimulus programs, if any, are being contemplated to help businesses catch up coming out of this? And also please highlight how businesses can play a role. With that, maybe MP Rhoda, can you go first?
Certainly, you know, part of it is getting through this right now, and right now Parliament has passed a $107 billion aid package to aid it's basically a response to what's going on, and it's the largest economic program in Canadian history. As I mentioned earlier, the nice thing about this is it was accepted unanimously in Parliament and continues. Now, there'll be another meeting next week. Hopefully everyone continues to work together. I have no reason to see why anybody would argue. It seems to be working very well, and MPs are working together to make sure that Canadians and Canadian businesses get the support they need to bridge them through these difficult times. We mentioned wage subsidies, and we went through some of the details. $71 billion in all, and that'll help employers keep their employees. As I mentioned earlier, $24 billion will be income support through the Canada Emergency Response Benefit directly to employees who've lost their jobs. This represents about $95 billion in direct support, and another $85 billion in deferrals such as income tax payments, GST remittances, and custom duties. So that's all being put off so that it's not a drain on the cash flow. All these initiatives for businesses are intended to be a bridge to better times and to put you on a ready footing when everything comes together. The supports will allow businesses to have what they need when they're up and running again. And hopefully by putting that into place right now and deferring payments, what's happening is it's allowing cash flow right now to keep the companies or the businesses going, so that when things do get better and the pandemic has been over with, we'll be back on their feet. I mean, overall, the pandemic has been a tremendous challenge, and it's being very difficult to go over. So overall, we've spoken directly to many businesses and reached out for their help, and that's one of the things I can ask for from businesses. And many have been calling and telling me, okay, this is what's happening in my situation right now. How do we cover it? And that is transmitted back to Ottawa to make sure that it's reflected in the new policy. And more often than not, it has been reflected. So one of the most important things is, one, take advantage of the programs that are there. They're there to help you. The other one is, if there's anything that doesn't quite work, please let us know, and how we can modify it. And sometimes, more often than not, you'd be surprised how accommodating things are under these circumstances. Now, we've learned governments and businesses can be nimble at times of crisis, and this is creating new ways of doing things. And we're learning a lot. Businesses are learning a lot, and we're really coming together and making a difference. Like I said earlier, all three levels of government are working together, or four levels, including the Indigenous governments, are coming together to make sure that this, when it's passed, we'll be able to get on our feet and continue. I just want to reiterate how proud I am of all Canadians for where we are and where we're going to, and the way we're coming together to solve this issue. Again, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, MP Rhoda. Minister Fedeli, your closing thoughts, please.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you, Anthony and Mayor Al, for participating, and thank you for doing this to the City of North Bay, and thank you for the 300 participants for taking time out of your day to attend on this video conference. Again, I don't want to, because this is called a recovery program, I don't want to diminish the reality of today. So know that the health and well-being of our families is the top priority. Making sure you have food on the table and a roof over your head is number one. The second area is how are we going to get through this week, this month, in the next couple of months. That we announced in the budget was canceled. We announced in a spring economic statement. We announced the $17 billion that's there in phase one, but we've also announced the next package. And what you're asking about specifically, Aaron, is where are we going in terms of a recovery? Well, Premier Ford has been very, very clear. We've seen through our Ontario Together outreach, so many Ontario companies stepping forward to make products. And this is where the recovery will be, this is the beginning of the recovery. This is where the recovery will be aided. You know, when you think about all of the things that we import into Ontario, the things that we don't make here, Ontario is the economic engine of Canada. We are the manufacturing breadbasket for Canada as well. And we are going to see tremendous supports being put forth in Northern Ontario as well to help starting companies to make products here in Ontario. Import less, export more. This is going to be really key in our recovery. We've already started on this. We have a huge amount of my staff in Toronto that are devoted to the future and where we're going to be. They all want to work on today. They all want to work on the next weeks, but we carved out a piece of our ministry to look at tomorrow. That's the responsible thing for us to do. And as much as I hate talking about that, as opposed to the people and their needs today, we do have to have a recovery. And so you are going to see a huge support and a huge push from the province of Ontario to start making more things here. I think we were shocked into the reality that when it came to the personal protection equipment, that what we turned out we didn't make here. But there's many, many, many more things as well that we do not make in Ontario. And you're going to see a real shift towards that. And we'll be there to support you. You, small business, the medium-sized businesses, and our large corporations, we're there for you. We need you, and we need you as part of the recovery. So that's why, and I'll end here by saying, every single day we're on teleconferences with sectors, the Retail Council. You in the retail sector are very, very well served by your Retail Council, Canada Retail Council. You're doing a great job of guiding us. If you're in export and manufacturing, the association there is on the leading edge. They're doing a phenomenal job. Canadian Federation of Independent Business, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, your local chambers of commerce. We meet with these teleconferences all day, every day. The IT sector, the auto sector, northern groups. We're meeting all day to get your input, and we're working on a recovery plan as well. Thank you, and I'm sorry I went on a little long on this one.
Thank you, Minister Fedeli. Mayor McDonald, your closing remarks, please.
Thanks very much, Aaron. And I'll start with my remarks saying, hey, our number one priority is the health and safety of our citizens, and we're absolutely working on that full time, and so is all our community partners. So I just want to recognize our frontline workers and just say how much we appreciate what you're doing, and just know that you're in our hearts every single day, and we appreciate it so much. The reason for the call today was really about the recovery readiness, and what we do know is that it'll end sometime. We just don't know when, but we want to make sure that we lead when it happens, and we want to come out of this strong and fast, and that's why we're here today to start planning. This council has made growth a priority to cut red tape, and they're doing everything that they can, and I'm very proud of them and our city staff for what they've done up to date. And this is absolutely a brick wall in front of us. Having said that, we've created the GSIP program for any of the businesses out there. Please reach out to our economic and planning staff. It is a program which Aaron Richmond and Ian Kilgore have said is so innovative for municipalities that others are calling to find out what it's all about. We do have the lowest commercial taxes of the big 5 cities in Northern Ontario, and we also have the lowest industrial tax ratio in the province. But taxes are just a small component of trying to attract business and industry to our city and to encourage our local businesses to retain and expand. And that's a crucial part. The city is going to be working with our local partners, such as the Labor Market Group, to gather workforce data in the coming weeks. And this information will help us better understand the local market. So please take the time to answer their questions if they call about our workforce planning, because that's going to be crucial. I think the question, and I saw it on Vic in the Premier's webcast earlier this week, or late last week. It seems that every day just kind of runs into one another. We need you. We need business and industry to give us the ideas on how we can be ready for the recovery when it happens, and that we can continue to move forward. I can tell you our engineering department, our planning department, our building department, our economic development staff, they're all working, and they're all here processing every application, every building permit. And some of them won't be able to go out the door because of the conditions that we have, but they're ready to go, and there will be no expiry on them thanks to the province. So we appreciate that due to the pandemic, but we're processing through it. The DART team that was put in place a number of years ago, 15 years ago, is working well, and they're at it. But it comes right down to, we need you, we need the community, we need our business leaders to give us the ideas so that we can work with you, our economic development staff, to be ready to come out of the gate whenever that might be. And I really do appreciate Anthony Rota's time today, Minister Fedeli. Thank you so much for being just a huge champion, not only of the province and your riding of Nipissing, but also North Bay. It's very much appreciated. Anthony, you continue to do a great job in the speaker's role, and we appreciate your time here today. And I just want to give a shout out to my council. They are a godsend. They're working so hard, and they're dedicated, and our staff are doing a tremendous job. I don't know if our citizens really realize how hard they're working on behalf of you. So everyone that's listening, thank you for your attendance, and we want to hear your ideas. The number is still there, and the address or the email address is in your mailbox. So please send us your ideas or reach out to us.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to echo those comments by saying again, thanks to all of our speakers for their time today. We know the pressing matters that you're facing right now, and these updates are important for business. So thank you. Your continued leadership is appreciated and more important now than ever. So thank you to all of the participants who joined the call today. Over 300 folks were on the meeting update with us. We recognize these are very challenging times, and it's hard for businesses to stay current on all the programming coming out. So hopefully this update was helpful in that regard. For those questions that were not addressed this morning, we'll forward them to the appropriate office for potential response. And please monitor the City of North Bay's COVID-19 page for municipal updates, and follow the provincial and federal websites for official program news. To everyone out there, thank you, and stay safe and stay North Bay proud.
Thank you.